Hi, this is Colin Richards, president of Lord & Richards, and today I'll be talking about one of the questions that we often receive when we're sitting down, getting to know people, talking to them about their goals and their values in our first visit together. And that question simply is, what is it that makes Lord & Richards different from the other advisors that we might also encounter in the financial realm? There are a lot of people out there that call themselves financial advisors or planners, all kinds of different titles. But really what makes Lord & Richards different is the nature of the planning that we do. We truly do comprehensive financial and retirement planning. That might surprise you that makes us stand apart, but fewer than 1 in 5 advisors not only are fiduciaries, which means that they're required to put your best interests ahead of their own, but also a very small number of even those do comprehensive planning. And what we found in meeting people and getting to know them is that folks are concerned in a lot of different areas. And it's not just about which investments to buy, although that's critical and important. They're concerned, well, what happens if we run into severe market volatility? What happens if something occurs in the tax laws that changes my tax rate? What happens if something happens with our health care so that our costs shoot up, or maybe somebody is required to go into a nursing home? The list goes on. And the reality is that the nature of what we provide is to come alongside of our clients and become a guide, a financial mentor, and to help develop a plan. Because people that we talk to like you every day are concerned that things out of your control potentially are going to come in and potentially damage your retirement. And so what we do is we help you build a plan to achieve financial independence so you can simply retire without worry. And that's the goal. We want our clients to sleep well at night. We want folks not to be worried about what the markets are doing, not to be worried about how they'll pay for medical bills, not to be worried about whether or not their income is going to last as long as their lives. And so I'm going to share with you a little diagram today that simply lays out those key areas of financial planning. I'm going to use my on-screen notepad that I have here using OneNote. But for starters, a broker is somebody generally who provides the service of buying and selling financial products. They might be a stockbroker, so they focus in on stocks. They might focus in on mutual funds. Often they specialize in one or the other. Or they might be involved in other financial products like life insurance or annuity. But in every case, they broker or they provide access to you as the consumer to financial products. And they're necessary in that regard. But that's not really the role that we fill, although we do place our clients' hard-earned assets into the right investments. That's certainly part of comprehensive planning. But it begins with understanding your goals, your values, what's important to you and what concerns you. When folks come in and visit with us, we spend really our entire first visit together, could last an hour or longer, talking about what is important to you. What have you been through in life's experiences that have made you think and feel the way that you do? And we really honor and regard those feelings, and they become a part of your financial plan. But when building a comprehensive financial plan, it needs to, at a minimum, include 4 major areas. So I'm going to use some colors here to make this hopefully a little easier to read. And my handwriting isn't anything special, so please forgive me. But sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so the first major area that I think most people come in and are concerned about, especially in today's volatile economic environment, is risk. They say, Colin, what do you think is going to happen to the markets? And the reality is, I don't know. Often we're finding, especially in this 21st century era of investing, that markets are moving the opposite of the way they should if they're tracking the fundamentals. How well is our economy doing? How are individual companies or sectors doing? And markets seem to have taken on a life of their own. We saw this with the pandemic. After an initial collapse in March, April of 20, the market suddenly went into one of their greatest surges, rebounds ever, and set new highs shortly thereafter in just a matter of months. Meanwhile, the economy languished. People were out of work. Homes were not having their mortgages paid, and so on. So markets are unpredictable and unstable. And so risk today, from a market perspective, is harder to plan and account for than ever before. And so here's the question I always ask folks is, do you have a written plan to manage that risk? So a risk plan, a risk management plan. Now this needs to include growth, of course, as well in those investments. But it's easy to get growth, right? We all know where to get that. We can go out and buy our favorite stock or company that we think is going to grow forever. Folks have different favorites. A lot of folks have latched on to the Tesla bandwagon and so forth. But whatever it is, the problem is we don't know how long it's going to continue in that upward trajectory. So it's critical that we develop a plan that deals with risk. So that's step number one of a comprehensive plan. And it really needs to be written down. You know what they say about goals? Goals that are written have many times more likelihood of succeeding and of you achieving those goals than goals that are never written down. So we help you develop a risk management plan, and I'll tell you more about that later. In addition, we need an income plan. One of the things I always tell folks that's self-evident is that in order to get retired and to stay retired, you've got to be truly financially independent. And that's what this whole process that we've developed, our comprehensive planning process, is called. It's called a financial independence review. That's really where it begins. And we're going to review where you stand in terms of risk, and we're going to review where you stand in terms of income. You say, well, how does that work, Colin? Well, what we're literally going to do is we're going to simulate. We're going to look out into the future and see what is your probability of never running out of money before you run out of life. That's what an income plan does. An income plan is not a product. Sometimes folks come and say, well, I've got an income plan, I've got an annuity or some other dividend stock, something that's generating income. And my reminder to you is that those are vehicles and tools that are used to achieve the goal, which is lifetime income, but they are not an income plan. An income plan takes into account many variables, and it just doesn't start on the income side and making sure you have enough income. It also looks closely at the expense side and factors in what might be some surprising expenses that could potentially derail our retirement plan. And how are we going to deal with that in advance? Of course, dealing with problems in advance, that's called planning, and not dealing with problems in advance, that's called planning to fail. So what kind of problems can enter in? Well, in addition to risk in the portfolio, we also have healthcare issues. I mentioned this at the beginning, but we need a written healthcare plan. Now, by this, I'm not talking merely about either your current insurance that's used to pay normal medical bills, nor am I talking primarily about Medicare. Okay, these are about normal medical costs. We do build those into your plan. And so when we build a comprehensive plan for our clients, it includes a budget. We'd like to know what you spend your money on, and that includes a line item for medical care, health care. And I'm talking about normal month in, month out care costs. And we know from our work with our clients, as well as many studies that are done and revised annually, approximately how much you should plan to budget for normal medical costs. But in this area, we're really talking about what would be called a chronic healthcare situation. Chronic healthcare means that it's extended, sometimes called long-term care, where either at home or with the help of a skilled nursing facility, we recover over a longer period of time. And of course, we know, unfortunately, sometimes folks never fully recover, and this becomes end of life or hospice care. But here's the tragedy, is that healthcare, particularly chronic illness costs, are the number one reason why people fail in their retirement plan. It's the number one cause of bankruptcy among retirees. So to plan for that in advance, to build a plan that accounts for the possibility, though we hope it never occurs to you, though we hope you never face chronic illness, but building a plan that deals with it in advance is so important. This is a key area. And then the final area is a tax plan. And this, of course, could also include taxes on death, which is what we call an estate plan. But generally speaking, we're talking about tax planning, both to reduce taxes now while you're alive and protect you from the tax policy volatility that is taking place in Washington, or whether we're talking about in the future when you pass those assets into the hands of another. And both now and later are key planning priorities. You can't do one and not the other. You need to do both. Right now, we see huge tax volatility, policy making shifts back and forth from one administration to the next. And currently, we're seeing a real priority on the government doing what we call raising revenues to pay for pet projects and expenditures, whether it's on one side of the aisle or the other. After the trillions of dollars of deficit spending, after the trillions of dollars of debt that we have piled on in just the last year or so, we are looking at a tax, what I call time bomb, or some have called it the coming tax storm. And so it's critical. This is something we're doing with all of our clients right now, is helping you build a written tax plan. I say a written plan because it's not just about trying to get into a low rate today. It's also, well, what are we going to do about next year and the following year? How will these plans that we're making potentially affect our Medicare premiums or our current healthcare premiums? Would it be wise to take some of our assets and move them from forever taxed to never taxed? All those are key questions and many more. And we'll, of course, drill deeper on each one of these key areas of planning. But I hope that helps you understand a little bit better what we do at Lord & Richards and why it may be different from somebody that you've already encountered who's in the financial realm, be it a financial planner, a broker, someone who calls themselves a financial advisor, or whatever their title may be. So comprehensive planning, and we call this financial independence review, a financial independence review, because the end result of financial planning should be that you sleep well at night, you feel comfortable that you're going to be able to retire without worry, regardless of outside events that may come in out of your control that potentially damage your future. So again, this is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards. We've been talking about what it means to work with Lord & Richards, perhaps that might be a little bit different from other advisors you've spoken to.